Good morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from the LBJ Museum in Austin, Texas. And yes, that's an animatronic figure of the president himself. Well, today we are going to look at 1 Peter 5:12 through 14, which finishes out this epistle in today's video. It says, "Through Silvanus, our faithful brother, for so I regard him, I have written to you briefly, exhorting and testifying that this is the true grace of God. Stand firm in it. She who is in Babylon, chosen together with you, sends you greetings. And so does my son Mark. Greet one another with a kiss of love. Peace be to all who are in Christ." Now, it starts with Silvanus, who is also known as Silas, Silvanus just being a longer form of his name, or perhaps a Greek version of it. But Silas was known to be Paul's companion. In the book of Acts, you'll hear that Paul and Silas did this and that and the other thing. And here, Peter is using Silas, or Silvanus, to help write this epistle. Remember, Peter natively spoke Aramaic, and so perhaps his Greek was not as polished as somebody like Paul, and needed help from somebody like Silvanus. Also, it mentions Mark, who is John Mark, who was also a traveling companion of Paul in the book of Acts. And Peter also had a relationship with Mark, calling him his son, and we'll talk about him more in a little bit. But this leads to this point. In Galatians 2:11 through 14, Paul and Peter had a very public disagreement where Paul had to rebuke Peter to his face because Peter, who had welcomed Gentiles into the church, started to shun them so he could cozy up to the Jewish purists in the church. And Paul's saying, how dare you? You need to treat both Jews and Gentiles equally in the church. And Peter could have pulled rank. Peter could have said, hey, I've known Jesus longer than you. I'm the one who said, thou art the Christ. I'm the one who walked on water with Jesus, and I'm going to win this argument. But you know what? Peter humbled himself, accepted Paul's rebuke, and the church is much better for this act of humility. And so now Peter is using Paul's companions. It also talks about she who is in Babylon sends you greetings. Well, Babylon was a code name for Rome. Basically, the church in Rome is sending you greetings. And so the church in Rome was very likely mostly a Gentile-based church with fewer Jews within the particular church. So Peter obviously has come back to a good relationship with Paul. And why? Through love and humility. And that's why he wrote so much about humbling ourselves in this epistle. Now back to Mark. Mark not only was a travel companion of Paul, but also worked with Peter, and it is believed that Mark and Peter somewhat worked together for Mark to write the Gospel of Mark, as Peter probably told him stories and so on. I don't know if it was dictation or just telling stories that Mark then wrote in his own way, but they were probably tied together, and the Gospel of Mark had the apostolic authority of Peter behind it. Now, in that note, the book of Matthew, Gospel of Matthew, presents Jesus as the Messiah. The book of Luke presents Jesus as the Son of Man. The book of John presents Jesus as the Son of God. But the Gospel of Mark presents Jesus as the humble servant, which makes sense because this is Peter's main focus, is love through humility. Finally, it says, greet one another with a kiss of love. Now, greeting with a kiss was probably the normal thing to do back in the day, sort of like a handshake for us. But even a handshake should be done with love. And that's how Peter wants to end this epistle, with love. So, my brothers and sisters, let's choose to love one another, because then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average Rutch, and I hope you have a great week.